Right on. Good morning, everyone. Oh, good afternoon, I guess now. Here, and a big welcome to RockVIU's Tips and Tricks with Peer-Supported Learning. On behalf of the Office of Co-Curricular Engagement and Learning and at Vancouver Island University, we would like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Sunamo, Cowichan, Tla'amin, and Tsanawas First Nations, on whose land we are honored to live, laugh, love, volunteer, and play. My name is Seth Rikelma.
And my name is Maria Clement, and we are your MCs for today. Before we start, it is now that time to announce our Panago Prize Pizza Prize winner from VIU's Talent Showcase. So from our random draw, we would like to congratulate Josh Pond. So Josh commented, there we go, virtual round of applause. Josh commented saying, my favorite acts from tonight's VIU Talent Showcase were Taylor's piano performance, Rael's violin, Agasha's guitar song, and Oscar's South American theme. All amazing acts. So thank you so much for the comment, Josh, and congratulations. You'll be receiving an email from CCR at VIU by the end of the week with details on how to claim your prize.
Today's event is all about learning effective tools and tricks when studying at VIU. Peer-supported learning, or PSL, provides an amazing opportunity for students to attend sessions that help support you in your academic career. Today's sessions is for all students in terms of study tips and tricks.
We would now like to take a moment to introduce two of our PSL leaders who've joined the call today. So let's start off with Brendan. So Brendan, can you just give a quick wave on the screen? Awesome. So yeah, Brendan's a third-year accounting student and PSL leader who will be supporting Accounting 100 and 294 this semester. In his first 2 years of taking accounting, as well as some history courses, he's developed some highly useful study habits which have helped him and his group find success in challenging courses.
Next, we have Kim. Kim is a third-year BA student studying major in psychology. As part of her role, she supports students in the Psych 204 Research Methods class. Kim is excited to see what new experiences this upcoming year has to bring. Kim, if you can please give a quick wave on the screen. Welcome, welcome.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'd now like to introduce Laura Holmes, who's going to be hosting this session on behalf of PSL. So please give Laura a warm welcome. Perhaps, oh, there we go.
All right. Are we good? Can you guys see this okay? All right.
Also, just so you know, while Laura is doing her presentation, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat, and then Kim and Brendan can help answer those questions. And there's also going to be an opportunity at the end for some of these questions to be asked as well.
All right. You guys might have to do with not full screen because I have notes that I need to read. I'll see if I can figure it out. But anyways, my name is Laura. I am part of the peer-supported learning program as well. I am going into my 5th year of university in the Bachelor of Science. This year I am doing PSL for Chemistry 140. So if any of you guys are taking that class, I might see you there. All right, so this today is all about study tips and tricks. So like I said, I'm part of the PSL program at VIU. If you guys don't know, PSL is a free service where senior students can offer study sessions to students who are enrolled in difficult courses. So again, some of you guys might be registered in those classes. So check your emails and watch for one from a PSL leader during the first week of classes. And if you guys have any questions throughout the slideshow, you can ask them in either the chat or at the very end. If you ask them in the chat, I might get Brendan and Kim to keep an eye on it. And if you guys can answer any questions, then please do. Or we can answer them at the end, or you guys can send us an email or anything you'd like. And we're also going to post these slides on the PSL website afterwards. So if you miss something, don't worry. All right, so first I'm going to start off. Do you guys know how to annotate? Anybody? If you don't, I guess we're going to try to teach you. So there should be a little option just on the very top of the Zoom meeting that says View Options, and if you click it, you should just be able to annotate. So I'm going to start off by getting you guys to try doing it here and tell me where you're from. So click that Annotate feature. There should be a little stamp button. Click that stamp and let me know where you guys are from. A lot of people from Vancouver. Okay, you guys are getting it. A lot of people from across seas, that's pretty cool. I am from the Yukon, so nobody's been from there yet, unless someone just missed it. All right, cool. I'm gonna keep going, and everything's gonna come back up on my next slide, so I'm gonna clear. All right, so just in the chat here, you guys, I want you to tell me if you are an international or a domestic student. Just get a good idea of where you guys are from. If you guys are using international student things at VIU, or if you're all from here, which obviously you guys were not all from here. I'm glad you guys learned the annotate feature. That is great. I'm glad you guys can use it. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Do if I can. And the last annotate thing I want you guys to do today is tell me what program you guys are in. History, MBA, another MBA, Bachelor of Arts, Community Planning, that's cool, Bachelor of Science, nursing students, kinesiology, cool, you guys are from everywhere. All right. I'm glad you guys are actually doing this. I was worried no one was going to do any annotations and I would just be staring at a blank screen. So thank you all. All right, move on to our first actual slide. So what are we actually talking about today? We're talking about getting ready, setting yourself up for success at university. It all starts with note-taking. So we're going to talk about some activities for studying, how to handle roadblocks, and then we're going to do some questions and answers with upper level students who are here today. All right, so what is so different about learning in university? All written out here, your schedule is a lot more flexible. Attendance is unlikely to be taken in class. No one, for the most part, is checking in that you're actually getting your work done, so it's a lot easier to fall behind. You'll probably be spending a lot more time studying than you actually will be in class. Your professors will have office hours, so make sure you're utilizing those as much as you can. Your classes, are going to be compressed a lot more so than in high school. So your assessments and your tests and quizzes are going to be worth a lot more. Another thing is that you're going to know all of your assignments and all the readings you're going to have to do right at the beginning. So you can make time, write out your schedule, and sort of get a grasp on how your semester is looking. Another thing is you're going to have tests, assignments, and presentations that are all going to be due on the same day because your teachers do not talk to each other. And that is unfortunately how university is, but you guys will learn how to deal with that. All right. Ready? So getting ready, we're creating time and space for a healthy balance. So most of the things we're talking about today apply to online learning, but they also apply to most of the other programs that you guys could be taking. We'll touch on a couple specific tips for learning online, but in general, everything kind of goes for all courses you guys might be taking now or in the future. All right, so getting good grades is not just about studying. All aspects of your life can influence how well you are performing. So try to eat limited amounts of junk food. When you have time, try to make healthy meals with lots of fruit and vegetables. Make sure you guys are limiting your drug and alcohol intake, especially before a big test. This can be really hard for some students who are living on their own for the first time and now have access to all of these things. But make sure you guys are not putting it before your schoolwork, even though it might be very tempting. You guys also want to raise your heart rate. Going for walks is great, but if you can do cardio, that's even better. And there's so many studies showing that exercise before studying increases your ability to learn. So do with that information what you will, but it is definitely a good tip to follow. This year, socialization is going to be a little bit different since everything is online. There's going to be less in-person events unless you guys are already doing things that are organized in a different way. But this year, you guys are going to need to connect through your peers online. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. If you guys can make study groups, there is fun at VIU. Other events offered through VIU, keep an eye on their apps on the website, make sure you guys aren't missing anything. And there's also the Co-Curricular app that you guys can use now, which I'm assuming most of you guys have downloaded that and know how it works. Another thing that's super important is getting a lot of sleep and good sleep. You want to try to get a regular schedule going, so try to go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time every day, and make sure you're actually sleeping for long enough. That's like 8 hours or more. All right. Next one, sometimes having a balanced life seems very impossible, especially during those really busy weeks where all of your teachers have scheduled all their tests, but it is completely doable. You just have to be thoughtful about how you're spending your time and not wasting it all away going through your phone or texting people. Make sure you guys are actually using your time in a meaningful way. So putting too much effort into any one of these different topics can seriously hinder your ability to be successful in university. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is a habit board. So this is a cool thing I learned about from a VIU student. So it's called a habit board. Basically, you want to make a list of all the things you do daily or weekly, such as like walking your dog, exercising, drinking water, calling home, and make sure that the things you're doing, or make sure the things that you're putting on the list are actually meaningful to you and things that you actually want to accomplish. And then as you accomplish your tasks throughout the day or throughout the week, check them off. It's kind of satisfying to be able to give yourself a check for doing something so simple as drinking water, but it is a really nice way to stay on top of things, and it helps you stay in a rhythm and helps you stay accountable to yourself. Make sure that you're doing the things you guys actually want to be doing. All right, and the next thing is to make sure that you guys are making time to socialize. So use your free time to socialize. This is super important, and I cannot stress it enough. It's so easy to fall into the habit of spending all your free time online or watching TV, scrolling through your phone, but you guys do not have endless amounts of study time. So make sure that you're using your time effectively. There's also going to be a lot of free online activities hosted through VIU. So try to clear your schedule at those times, study before them, don't leave everything till after, and make sure you guys are keeping up to date with all of those activities that are going on. Another thing you guys will want to do is if there are synchronous lectures, make sure that you're attending them. Message the people in your classes about starting a studying program. It can be really important, especially if your course is not supported by like PSL or some other group that does studying. There are definitely a few hard courses that PSL is not part of. So if you are in one of those classes, getting a study group going is going to be super important for you guys. And this year, you guys might have to reach out to people online, and it might make you feel uncomfortable, but you are not the only person who's in this position, and I'm sure everyone else will be glad if you're the person to reach out. Right. So time management tips on top of that. Make sure you guys are using your designated class time. If your professor is not having live lectures during your scheduled class time, then set this time up to learn the material. You guys already committed to waking up that early before you knew that there wouldn't be synchronous lectures, so make yourself get up and make yourself use that time. Another reason we procrastinate is because the task is often overwhelming and we're not very confident that we can get it done in time, or we don't know where to start. So try to break things down into smaller chunks and make sure you're not falling behind. And then we do a bunch of easy things, and then by the time that we're done, we don't actually feel like we've had to do that much. Another thing you guys might want to do is set a timer for yourself. Keep track of your time and make sure you're monitoring how long you're spending on your study breaks. Also make sure you guys are not going too long without taking a study break, or else you might get overwhelmed and then your studying is actually not that beneficial. You guys also might want to make a list of all the things you want to get done by a certain date and then check them off as you go. Could be like, this is the stuff I want to get done today, or maybe this is all the stuff I want to get done this week or before my next test. Even simple things such as like read chapter 1, make notes for chapter 1, redo my notes for chapter 1. And that action of actually checking them off a list at least makes me feel like I'm actually doing something and is more motivational to keep going. You guys also will want to eliminate half work. So this means that you guys don't want to be studying while you're trying to watch TV or while you're eating food. The amount of study you guys actually get done will be basically negligible at that point. There's no point in trying to study unless you are fully committed to what you're doing and you're 100% there to learn. And then the last point on here is stop trying to be perfect. No one is going to be perfect, and it's going to stress you out even more if that is your goal. All right, now we're going to move on to note-taking. So some people don't think that note-taking is super important. Maybe you guys haven't done many notes in high school, or you didn't really feel like you needed to, but in university, taking good notes is the key to success. All right, so we're gonna do another quick poll just in the comment section. So how many of you guys take notes? And then how many of you guys take notes by hand versus with a computer? And also, are you guys rewriting your notes ever? Good, I'm glad you guys are saying hand. Do you guys actually take notes by hand, or are you just saying that you're taking notes by hand? Okay, so main point here is that writing notes by hand is absolutely the way you guys should be doing it. So for those of you who do take notes on a computer, it's really good for when you're in class and your professor is talking super fast and you can't keep up with them and you're writing too slow and you feel like you're missing a bunch of stuff, but you know that you can type it out faster. That's the time when typing your notes is a good idea. But other than that, you should always be trying to take your notes by hand as much as possible. There's a lot of studies out there that have shown that writing your notes by hand actually helps your brain retain information. And this is because by actually using our hands to write and not type, it activates the reticular activating center in the brain. And this area is like a filter, and it gives more importance to the stuff that you're focusing on. So if you're focused on what you're writing, then your brain will also focus on that content. But if you're just typing, it's a lot easier for our brain to sort of wander and think about other things, and then it doesn't sit in our mind quite as well. So a lot of people also find that their thoughts flow better when using a pen and paper rather than typing. So again, studies have shown that when a person is writing, they tend to write more and in complete sentences, and it seems to sink into their brain a little bit easier. Whereas when you're typing, things get a little bit more condensed and they get put into point form, and your ideas aren't fully formed. And if you're typing on a computer, it's also really easy to get distracted by other things, such as your text messages popping up, or maybe a website that you want to go to. Another thing is that writing is actually a workout for your brain. So you're engaging motor skills and memory and a lot of other things. So this is a reason that your brain actually does retain more information when you write it out rather than just reading it and typing it. All right, and the next thing I have here is a short little video on the Cornell method of note-taking. So this is something that us as PSL leaders sort of know a bit about. It's something that we have been taught how to do, and it's a really great way of actually taking notes. So I'll play this video here. Can you guys all see that okay? Can you hear it okay? All right, cool. So the biggest thing to emphasize with that is that by doing the actual process of writing out the notes and being able to summarize them and putting them into your own words helps your brain remember it a little bit better. Also, you guys can try different note-taking techniques. This is not the only one that there is. It's good to try a bunch of different things and sort of see what does work best for you. Now I can try to share my screen again. All right, cool. So another thing with note taking is that the thing I like to do is color code. If you guys like colors, make it really easy for you to see, makes it pop a little bit better, and you have a little bit better ability to find things as well when you're looking for something in particular. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is when it's actually time to study. So you've done everything else, and now it's time to study. So here are a few more things to think about. So common questions that you guys have about studying, or that most people have about studying, as how can you study efficiently? And what do you do if you don't understand a concept? How long do you need to study for? And how can you guys get good grades and still have time for other things? What do you do if you get a bad grade? And will you be able to know when you're actually ready for a test? So the first thing that's really important for studying is to make sure that you guys are reviewing your course outlines early in the semester, writing down everything that's important. This is how you organize your brain a little bit better. I like to put all of these things on a big wall calendar and hang it right in front of my face where I cannot possibly pretend I didn't see it, and I have to look at it every day. You guys can use Post-it notes, bulletin boards, whiteboards to write down anything that's super important. Having it sort of right in front of your face makes it easier for you to remember that it's there, and when you're looking at it all the time, it definitely helps your brain remember it. You guys also might want to invest in items that can help you study. So things like desk shelves, pencil holders, book holders, a good lamp. There's plenty of other things out there that can help you stay organized. But if you guys have some extra money and you're feeling like you're very disorganized, investing in some of these things might not be a terrible idea. So when you guys are actually sitting down to study, clear your study space, get yourself organized. Try to not have anything unrelated to schoolwork in your way. So things such as your phone that you don't really need, or like an iPod if anybody still has those. Even just things like garbage on your desk can make it a little bit harder for you to concentrate. Try to only have the things that you actually need. So have water nearby. Water is a good thing to have, maybe some food, but you don't really want anything other than that, and then your textbook and your notes. One other thing is that your brain actually does remember things better in the location that you learned it. So instead of always studying in the exact same location, see if you can recall that information in various locations. So go on a walk and see if you can remember it there, or try studying at the library, or try studying at a coffee shop if you guys can, or even outside at the park if it's a nice day. This can help a lot to improve your memory. The thing everybody loves is study breaks. So taking breaks allows your brain to actually process the difficult material that you've learned. You always only want to study when you're actually feeling engaged and feel like you can accomplish something. As soon as you feel yourself becoming distracted, take a break. And make sure that you're using those breaks to do something that's actually efficient. If you're studying while you're distracted, it can be super counterproductive. And you guys might end up wasting a bunch of time that you could have been using for something a lot funner. So usually your attention span only lasts for around 1 to 2 hours, and may ultimately, your attention span only lasts for about 1 to 2 hours. So if your studying is going beyond that, make sure you're stopping, take a break, do something else like meal prep, see friends, do an activity. This actually makes it a lot easier to understand a topic, and the amount of time you spend studying actually will go down if you're only studying when you're focused and fully engaged. Okay, so how long should you guys be studying for? The default rule, which probably you guys have been told, is to study for about 2 hours for every 1 hour of class time. So if you have one class that has 3 hours of lectures a week, then make sure that you're studying about 6 hours. However, this might differ depending on the class that you're studying for. If it's a really difficult class, you might need a little bit more time, and if it's super easy, you could probably get away with only doing 1 hour. I don't think I've ever taken a class that easy, but I'm sure that they're out there. Realistically, you guys just want to feel comfortable with the material that you've learned. All right, and study activities. So once you've done everything else and it's time to actually start studying your notes and doing more. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong side here. Study activities. So you guys have done your study routine, you have it set up, you've taken your good notes, you're ready to go, and there's a little bit more you have to do. So this here are the levels of learning, and this is accepted for almost all university courses, and most of your guys' teachers are actually going to use these steps in their lesson plans. So depending on the course that you're taking and the assignments or tests that your professor has for you, you'll find yourself moving from this remembering stage to the create stage. And the more you mix up your study techniques, the deeper and higher level critical thinking you can achieve. So even just reading it, remembering, understanding it, being able to apply what you've learned to the real world, being able to analyze it, evaluate it, and then eventually create something from it. And I think it's pretty straightforward once you start thinking about it, how you can apply this to almost all of your guys' classes. All right, so this is a bit of a big one. So just reading and rereading your notes is not a great way to learn material. So here are some actual study/learning activities that you can do to ensure that you're understanding and going deeper with the material. So the first thing on here is a brain dump. This is what we call it in PSL. It's really great for recall and memorization. So before you guys start studying, write down everything you can remember with examples if you can. This will help you recall information and identify what you did know and what you didn't know. Then you can compare it with your notes and see if you guys have missed anything. Flashcards are also really great for memorization if you're using them properly. You can use them even as a memory game. So writing a definition on one side and then a single word on the other side. See if you can repeat it to yourself. Writing on actual cue cards is a lot better than online tools, as we discussed before, because as you write them, you're learning them, and writing them stimulates that learning portion in your brain. You can mix up your cue cards as soon as even if you know your cue cards through really well, if you like threw them on the floor and put them back in a different order, I guarantee you would not know them as well as you thought you did. The next thing is writing the process first. So this is really great for anything that is problem related. So before you start to solve a problem, write down what steps there are in the process of solving it. This is going to fall more into like math, science, accounting, and economics. Make sure you understand the actual steps that you guys are going to need to take before you can solve a problem. Once you get those steps down, then solving the problem is a lot easier. The next thing is to ask yourself, why? This is my favorite thing. If you can explain why something is the way that it is, or why it's related to other things, then you'll have a much deeper understanding of it, and you'll be able to apply it as well when you're asked it on a test or a problem. Practicing. So you guys might think you know the material, but there are many courses that require you to practice the content. The more problems you can do, the better you will learn it. And that's mostly for like the chemistry, math, not so much the memorization courses, but any sort of problem solving course, practice, practice, practice. The more practice problems you can do, the more prepared your guys are going to be. Try problems or try to understand content before a lecture or the recorded lecture. This helps you identify what you don't understand and what you need to maybe learn a little bit more. It's also really nice if you guys read all your material before the lecture. You can see what the professor is highlighting, and then there's a good cue of what is actually going to be on the test and what's going to be more important. If you guys take notes after your lecture, you might fall into the trap of thinking, oh, everything is really important and I need to know everything. So if you are able to do it before your actual lecture, you can pick out the material that your professor has highlighted and know that that's going to be the most important part. Another thing is to create your own questions. So create questions that you think might be on a test. And then maybe have a study partner create questions as well, and you guys can trade them between yourselves and see if you can answer them. It's a really good way of thinking how information you've learned can be put into a question as well. Sometimes you learn something and it seems really obvious and it makes a lot of sense, but when it's asked in a question, it becomes a little bit harder for you to recall that information. Another thing that's really useful is to teach somebody the material that you have. You can teach it to your parents or your pet or even just to yourself. Saying it out loud and explaining a concept helps sink it into your brain a little bit deeper. Another thing that's really great is to draw and label. And this is especially important in classes like anatomy and biology, where there's a lot of memorizing and a lot of different parts that you have to know. So any drawing, labeling you guys can do is awesome. And I think I'll leave the slide at that. There's a few more things up there, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Practice, 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 ask yourself why, and make questions. All right, so what do you guys do when you hit a roadblock? How do you salvage your semester? All right, so ask your teacher for clarification. If you come across a problem, take a step back, start at the beginning again. It's very easy to get overwhelmed when we don't understand something, so take a break, come back to it later. Try looking at the problem from a different perspective or angle. Use internet resources. There are always so many resources out there to help solidify topics. Khan Academy, if you guys have ever been to it, is a lifesaver for a lot of first-year classes. It's a great resource. I always check there first. There's definitely a lot of other places out there as well to look. And one important thing to keep in mind is that whatever mark you guys receive on a test or assignment is meant to reflect how well you understood that material. So if you receive 100% on the test, that means that you've understood 100% of the content that was taught. And understanding 100% of the course content is unlikely to be a realistic goal. You can easily see how you could study for an unnecessarily long time for a test and still never know 100% of the material that's in your textbook. So try to gauge approximately how much material you fully understand and how much you need to work on, and maybe how much you might not need to work on. If you think that something's not super important, you're okay to leave a few things. Again, 100% of the material being known is pretty rare. I don't even think your teachers could pull off 100% half the time. And then how do you recover from a bad grade if you do receive one? Everybody gets bad grades, and there are ways to recover. One bad grade does not ruin your chance to succeed in a course. So reflect on this and figure out why you got a bad mark. Take responsibility for yourself. It might have been the way you studied. Maybe you were studying the wrong material. So think back to what you did and maybe what worked well and what didn't work well. A lot of the time, if you guys are studying and you feel really confident in what you're doing, you sort of know it. And if you're maybe less confident, you feel like maybe you're not studying the right things, you're generally pretty good at knowing that you're not doing it right as well. So review back, think what worked well, what didn't work well. Spend time reviewing your corrected test if you can. Sometimes teachers don't give them back. In that case, I would just make a meeting and see if they would be willing to go over the questions with you. Understanding those questions that you got wrong is super important. Even if you're thinking, oh, well, I already did that test and I'm not going to have to know that stuff again until the end of the semester when I take my final exam, it's still really important to keep up with it. Otherwise, you are going to fall behind, and then when you're studying for your final, there'll be like 5 other things you have to learn because you didn't learn this one basic thing from your first test. So don't let it spiral. Review your tests, figure out where you went wrong, and correct it if you can. Another thing is you guys can utilize all your resources. So you have us, PSL, the International Student Services, advising, you can use the Success Coach at VIU, set up meetings with your professors. Sometimes there is an opportunity to improve grades. You guys might not know unless you ask. So asking your professor if there's anything else you can do, it's never a bad idea, even if they say no. Sometimes it's worth checking. Right. And then here is a list of VIU resources for you guys. So learningmatters.viu.ca is a collection of resources to assist students in being successful. There's videos, learning tips, study strategies, support areas, best practices. Everything is put together on that one site. It covers topics such as learning how to learn, how to take good notes, finding useful information, preparing good presentations. If you guys go to that website, there's a link that says find support, and then that will give you a link for all of these other things as well. The Success Coach is pretty cool. It's basically an individual on campus who helps students academic prep themselves. And then peer supported learning, I don't think is on the Learning Matters site, but you guys will be hearing from us if we're part of your guys' classes. And that is everything. Does anybody have any questions? I guess, say if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat and then I can see them. I don't think that there is a PSL for forestry in particular, but I know that you guys, I think you have to take some biology classes as well. There is for biology. find more information about PSL, if you guys just look up VIU PSL, it should be the first thing on there. And then again, we'll be emailing all of you guys if you are part of our program. I don't know all the classes, but I know it's biology, chemistry. We do have psychology, accounting. If you guys are in those classes, we'll be sending out an email the first week of school, and we'll let you know that you guys are available.
So I see a lot of questions. Hi, it's Kim. I see a lot of questions about whether your program is covered by PSL. The very best thing to do is if you go onto the PSL website, all of the classes that are supported are listed there. If you would like your class supported, like for this semester, it won't be possible, but you could put in a request with your professor. We generally only cover first and second year classes.
Yes, my slides will be available. We're posting them on the PSL website. I'm not sure if they're going to be posted anywhere else, but since we're recording this, I'm sure this will get posted somewhere as well.
Sarah had a question that said, I get very distracted when I try to sit down to read papers. Do you have any tips for focusing? Sarah, my very best tip for that, because I read a lot of research papers in the psychology program that I'm in, and sometimes it's really dry, tough information. So what I do is I make sure that my environment is conducive to focusing as possible. So I remove things like my cell phone. I remove things that can sort of be more enticing, like snacks and stuff. And when I really need to focus, I kind of put myself in a dry environment with just the documents I need to read and a little bit of discipline.
Another tip with focusing, since I think that's going to be a big issue or a big challenge for a lot of students in the first and second year or all courses, especially with online, is maybe if you study like a lot at home or something, studying somewhere else in a different environment can help too, or keeping to a schedule where you set time where you study. A good example would be during your normal class times, because you would have been having to sit in that class for an hour and a half anyways. So it might help if in your mind you were already thinking, okay, well, if I was going to have to go to this class, I'd be listening, studying, doing notes. If you use that time as part of a schedule and followed your would-be class schedule, if there is no synchronous learning, it also helps to get you in the right mindset for note taking. I mean, if it's a dry topic, there isn't a whole lot you can do to make it not dry, but just try to summarize and push your way through some of the drier topics.
Awesome. Tips for flashcards and highlighting textbooks for Rebecca. One of the main reasons, some of the scientific evidence behind flashcards is actually the physical writing of the flashcards. So writing those notes, and then flashcards can be written in a way that that can work for you or work against you. So I always make sure that my flashcards are allowing for some critical thinking. Instead of just being exactly what the professor said, I'll try and write it in a different way, so to make sure I know the information from sort of all angles.
Another tip I found for just studying in general, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, whenever we were doing equations or memorization or anything like that, me and my study group would use one of the big whiteboards in the library or in a classroom. And in this case, you could use one that you have at home or a big sheet of paper or whatever, but for whatever reason, writing something down bigger and then putting it up, and then you and your study group, or just you looking at it and being able to step back or like walk and move while you're working, just sitting down, seem to help a lot as well. That way you're getting yourself moving, you're thinking, you're working with your hands instead of just being sitting, staring at a desk.
I see a few questions asking about recording the lectures. I think that's an individual request that, just out of respect, you should ask your professor if they mind. I think with a lot of the classes being synchronous online, it'll really be up to the professors to decide. I know in the psychology department, a lot of them are really open to it. So it's a good question to ask your professor.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to hand it back to Maria here. Thank you to Kim and Brendan for answering questions. Again, you guys can always send PSL an email, and our emails will be up on the PSL website pretty soon if they're not there already as well. So feel free to reach out to us. Even if we're not supporting your class, we might have some tips for you anyways. And got lots of free time right now before school starts, so get your questions in while you can. Right, then I'll pass it back to Maria here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Laura, for the amazing presentation, all those fantastic study tips you shared. And also thank you to Kim and Brendan for your ideas and the tips that you have as well. That was super informative, and I know I learned things, and I'm sure all the rest of you did too. So thank you. We'd now like to invite everybody to pull out their phones to scan this event's QR code so you can get your reward points for attending this session. So please pull out your phones.
If you're unable to receive points, we kindly ask for you to put your name in the chat in brackets with need points. So yeah, if you need any help with that, put it in there. Now it's also time to announce this session's Panago Pizza Challenge. To be entered into this draw to win a free medium pizza, comment in the VIU Co-Curricular Apps community tab about your biggest takeaway from today's session, and tell us what your #1 study tip is. The winner will be announced tomorrow.
With that being said, a huge thank you to our audience for coming today. Be sure to follow the pathways on the VIU Co-Curricular app and attend the rest of the week's events to collect reward points, which you can then exchange for amazing VIU prizes and swag. We're going to be giving away some Google Homes as well as AirPods, so you'll definitely want to get those points. Be sure to attend your faculty-specific block party, which is happening tonight from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. These block parties will provide the perfect opportunity for you to connect with peers in the same programs as you, as well as with faculty members while enjoying a virtual evening social.
Right on. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out today. This is Seth and Maria from the RockVIU team, signing out from the Office of Co-Curricular Engagement and Learning. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.